which if you take a speedboat, you can go over in 3 hours' time. We are so close. And that is something which we all need to understand as to how we can work together. Now, I'll deal with our past because I gave you a glimpse as to why so many people, so many thinkers and scientists all over the world have been praising India. What is it that makes them say so much about India? If you want to understand, we need to go to our past. And our past is linked with the ancient knowledge, which is written not only in the different kinds of Vedas and other special treatises. If you see, Jyotish deals with astrology and astronomy, Kalpa with rituals, Siksha with phonetics, Aitarya, creation of the universe, Chandogya is reincarnation, soul, etc. You can see a Yoga Sutra and a Kama Sutra, everything. Each area of human life has been written extensively. But the only problem with this ancient knowledge was, for almost 3,000 years, this remained a knowledge which is transported to the next generation by word of mouth, which is called Shruti in Sanskrit. So for almost 3,000 years, all this knowledge was transported by the word of mouth from a guru to a shishya. Guru again is a Sanskrit word, and siswa that we use is actually shishya in Sanskrit. And this knowledge system has always been called Guru Shishya Parampara, the tradition of Guru and Shishya. So all this is actually indicating that Indians had a huge knowledge concerning almost every field that we can think of today. And I'll give you this example from physics. Rig Veda, which is written something like 4,000 years ago, at least known to the Indians. One of the shlok says, Yojananam dve dve shate dve che yojane aken nimishardana kramana namostute. Means we pray to the sun, which travels at a speed of 2,202 yojan in half a nimish. Yojan is a unit of distance in ancient India. Nimish is a unit of time in ancient India. And if you convert this into kilometers per second, you get exactly the speed of light. 4,000 years ago, Indians knew the speed of light. How was that possible? But it is written. The next slide shows you another shlok in Sanskrit. When you read it in general, it is a praise to one of the Lord Krishna. But there is a code in Veda where every alphabet can be decoded into a digit, a numeral digit. And if you decode this in terms of digit, what you get is the value of pi. Pi, you know, all who have known geometry, 22/7, ratio between a diameter and the circumference. This was known to the Indians 4,000 years ago. That means the whole of geometry was known to the Indians. Whole of trigonometry, the value of pi was known to the Indians. All those were, as I said, were word of mouth. Much later, 4th century AD, 7th century AD, 11th century AD, all these knowledge were written by some people in the books. One of them was Aryabhatta, who explained the spherical shape, size, diameter, and rotation and correct speed of Earth in his book that he wrote in 499 AD. World's first university was set up in Takshashila. 700 BC. And you can see that students from all over the world came there to study more than 60 subjects, which included all those things that I mentioned to you: Jyotish Shastra, Yoga Shastra, Sutra, and different other things. 60 different subjects were taught, researched, and books were written. Ayurveda, as you know, it's a life science, and it's a very different source of healthcare, which is getting prevalent now in India and all over the world. These are some of the examples of what is known in India in terms of knowledge. And once again, I highlight that all this knowledge was available by the word of mouth centuries before this book was already brought out by Bhaskaracharya at 12th century AD, which when we say 400 years before Isaac Newton, he wrote about gravity. He did not invent gravity. He was only writing what was available in the Indian knowledge bank. Sanskrit is the language which actually means, in its own language, refined or perfected. And Sanskrit is considered the mother of all higher languages, is the most precise and therefore suitable language for computer software, which was written in the Forbes magazine in July 1987. And you know why? Because whatever we read in Sanskrit, we pronounce it exactly the same way. There's no hidden diphthong and other things. And the way we pronounce, we write it exactly in the same way. Sanskrit also has a very close linkage with Bhasa Indonesia. And I'll show you this. You say Bhasa Indonesia pariksa, meaning examination. Sanskrit word exactly is pariksha. Rahasya, secret, same meaning, same word, rahasya. Dirghayu, long live, the same word, same meaning, dirghayu. Vahana, vehicle, vahana in Sanskrit. I have already told you about guru, shishya. There are many, many similarities that you can find. Exact meaning, almost exact way to pronounce. I told you about the zero. Let's skip some of these mathematical details. Astronomy, all these, as I have already mentioned to you, was known to the Indians many, many centuries ago. And you can see that this book compiled in 1000 BC called Surya Siddhanta shows Earth's diameter to be 7,840 miles as compared to the modern measurement of 7,926.7 miles. Similarly, the other distance between Earth and the moon were almost equally presented. And these are all written in our texts, medieval texts. I can see this. I will not go more details into this, the martial art, etc. Yoga, all of you know. By the way, we celebrate International Day of Yoga every year on 21st June as sanctioned, as approved by the United Nations about 7 years ago. Chess was invented in India. Some less known facts: until 1896, India was the only source of diamonds in the world. India has never, ever invaded any country militarily in its 10,000 years of history. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism were born in India and are followed by 25% of world's population. Some of the Nobel laureates from India. Encyclopedia Britannica says, I can't read the last part, but the rest of it is, if there is a country on earth which can justly claim the honor of having been the cradle of the human race, or at least the scene of primitive civilization, the successive developments of which carried into all parts of ancient world and even beyond the blessings of knowledge, which is the second life of man, that country is assuredly India. And you have seen the reasons why people have been adoring Indian knowledge and Indian past. India's today, as you know, it is world's 5th largest economy in nominal GDP and the 3rd largest in terms of purchasing power parity. Nominal GDP is around $3 trillion, and PPP based GDP is about $10.2 trillion. As compared to, if we compare it to Indonesia, Indonesia is world's 9th largest economy, and we both are more than $1 trillion economy. That makes us very powerful allies, not only in this region of Southeast Asia, but the entire world. If we can join hands together, the world will have to listen to our voice. And that is the reason why Indonesia's presidency in G20 is of immense importance to us Indians. You should also know that after Indonesia, the next president of G20 is going to be India. And after India, the other next president is going to be Brazil. So 3 developing countries, one after the other, are going to be the presidents of G20 and can take care of the requirements of the developing world, their economic development, people's happiness, livelihood, and everything else. That is also the reason why India and Indonesia need to work together, understand each other, and find solutions to the issues being faced by our people. India's unicorn sector. These days, we talk a lot about new companies and smaller companies coming up. And you can see the text that the year 2021, 2020 and 2019 saw the birth of maximum number of Indian unicorns. 44 in 2021, 10 in 2020, and 9 in 2019. So, as of 29 December 2021, India was home to 81 unicorns. By 2025, India is expected to have 100 unicorns and will create 1.1 million direct jobs according to the NASSCOM Zinov report, India's startup. And you can see different companies which came out in terms of unicorn: 197 Communications, Baiju in education, Oyo in the hotel business, National Stock Exchange, FinTech, etc. You can see, and this is a very direct reflection to whatever is happening in Indonesia. As you know, Indonesia today is a home of 6 unicorns, which is a significant achievement, considering the fact that we are on the path of development together. Made in India is a program for promotion of Indian industry, which is very close in terms of what we have Industry 4 revolution and policy made by government of Indonesia. We also have this something called Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is a step ahead of Make in India. And this deals with all those areas where you can find a rhyme between Industry 4 and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Once again, the top is missing. Okay, direct investment. You can see India has emerged as the most attractive destination for direct investment, and also for doing business index. India has jumped 79 positions from 142 in 2014 to 63rd in 2019 in the Ease of Doing Business ranking 2020. And I'm sure you know that Indonesia ranks higher than India. It is ranked near about 50, if I am not wrong. So Indonesia is still better in terms of doing business index. However, just because of sheer demand in the Indian market, the number of investments that are happening are much more than any other country in the world. India has registered the highest ever annual foreign direct investment inflow last year, 2021, despite the pandemic, and that was $81.97 billion. Agriculture and allied sectors. I'm dealing with some of the sectors which are important for Indonesia, and also India deals with them very, very significantly. India is the largest producer of spices, pulses, milk, tea, cashew nuts, and jute. India is the second largest producer of bamboo in the world. India is the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables in the world. And if you see in financial year 21, when we say FY means financial year 21, our financial starts from April and ends in March. That is why, April to March. India exported basmati rice worth $4.0 billion, non-basmati rice worth $4.8 billion, and buffalo meat worth $3.17 billion. Buffalo meat is a very important example because Indonesia can import quite reasonably priced meat from India. However, due to certain reasons, I do not know, only 80,000 metric tons is being imported. That is the quota that is being given to India. While India has asked for 200 million tons, 200,000 tons, I'm sorry. As against that, the quota given to India was only 80,000 tons. As compared to this meat, the meat that is coming from Australia, for example, is nearly 3 times more costly. And if more meat is imported from India, it will benefit the common man, common public in Indonesia. Automobile industry, world's largest tractor manufacturer and second largest bus manufacturer, world's largest two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturer, world's third largest heavy truck manufacturer, and fourth largest car manufacturer is India. And you can see electronic vehicle sales, excluding e-rickshaws in India, witnessed a growth of 20% and reached 1.56 lakh. Basically, it means 156,000 units in financial year 20, driven by two-wheelers. Destination India in terms of biotechnology. You can see that India is the third largest biotech destination in Asia Pacific region. 3% share in global biotech industry. Number one supplier of DPT, BCG, and measles vaccine globally. Number one producer of biotechnological cotton globally, which is used for medical uses. Producer of the recombinant hepatitis B medicine, 100 plus biotechnology incubators, and many more details. The Indian pharmaceutical industry is known to be the health workshop of the world. We have had a lot of joint ventures and a lot of assistance during our pandemic days, where medicines were imported from India, the vaccines were imported from India, and assistance was given in terms of other humanitarian aid, about which we'll discuss towards the end of the slides. Healthcare, India gets about 200,000 visitors, tourists, who are called medical tourists, every year for different ailment, heart surgery, neurosurgery, plastic surgery, Ayurvedic treatment, and many other things. It stopped again. It stopped again, yeah. Pharmacy, we have already seen that. India has the highest number of US FDA compliant pharma plants outside the US and is home to more than 3,000 pharma companies with a strong network of over 10,500 manufacturing units. Pharmaceutical industry in India offers 60,000 generic brands across 60 therapeutic categories. The API industry is the third world's largest, and it has 57% of API on the WHO list. Tourism. Over 17.9 million foreign tourists arrived in India in 2019. Compared to 17.4 million in 2028, India is the 8th largest tourism economy in the world and the 9th largest in cultural sources and business travel in the world. I should actually know as to how Indonesia compares. I think Indonesia compares much more favorably than India. I think its position in the tourism industry is higher than that of India, but we can check on this. Gems and jewelry, it's a very important sector for Indian economy. The overall net export of gems and jewelry stood at $29 billion in the financial year 20, and India exported 18.66 billion worth of cut and polished diamonds in that same year. Most of the diamond, that is small size diamond, that you see anywhere in the world is actually cut or polished in India. Information technology. As you know, IT technology is kind of second to India in terms of name and fame. India is known for its IT industry. The export revenue from this industry, excluding hardware and e-commerce, has been estimated close to $147 billion in 2019 and 20. India has 1.23 billion mobile phones and 7.7 billion internet users. Data consumption in India is among the highest and cheapest in the world. Textile and garment, you all know. Space is another technology where we are collaborating very closely with Indonesia. Perhaps let me give you this interesting fact. India was the first country to send a satellite to Mars in its first attempt. But the cost of sending that satellite to Mars, if you calculate per kilometer wise, per kilometer cost of sending that satellite to Mars was less than the per kilometer cost of taxi ride in New York City. If you take a taxi in New York City, per kilometer you pay more money than the cost India paid per kilometer for sending that satellite to Mars. That is a very significant figure to note, because India can produce technology not only reliable, but also much more reasonably priced. India and Indonesia are working closely in terms of space technology because we have collaborated in setting up space tracking systems, satellite tracking systems in Biak with ISRO's collaboration. And we are working to train and work together with the Indonesian space and satellite technicians and engineers. You know, India is one of the world's biggest infotainment industry. We produce nearly 2,000 films every year in different languages. As compared to this, if you see how many films are produced by Hollywood, they're just about 150. So India produces nearly 2,000 films, and almost all animation industry is processed or has a route through India, and it is currently worth $700 million, expected to grow by 35% every year. Defense industry. India's defense and aerospace manufacturing market is worth 85,000 crore, which translates to 850 billion Indian rupees. 2022, it will increase to nearly 1 lakh crore, which again is almost like 1,000 billion rupees. The value of defense exports is growing at 334% in the last year. And India is now exporting to over 75 countries due to collaborative efforts. As I said, India has the second largest army and fourth largest air force, as well as seventh largest navy. In all this, we have been in close collaboration with Indonesia, because there is a lot of training which has come up between our two countries. A lot of senior officers, middle level officers, and junior officers are being trained in India, and a lot of such officers are coming to Indonesia for this exchange of our in our defense forces. In defense exports, you have already seen. This is something about India's future. India's future, all that projection of growth, etc., depends on 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars are strengthening of democratic values. India is a diverse country, just as Indonesia, where you have your national motto as Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. And India, once again, celebrates in diversity. We call unity in diversity. So that requires democratic values to continue. India has to have a very high economic growth to sustain its people's aspirations and growth prospects. Because of the high population, as I told you, it has 700 million young people. We need to have a rising skilled population. The population needs to be given different kinds of skills, and that is a very significant target for the Indian government. Bilateral cooperation between India and Indonesia. As you can see, we share a lot of historical ties, obviously, and whether you talk of monuments of national interest, of religious interests, cultural interests, they are all being shared between our two nations. What is important is that India's bilateral trade is nearly $20 billion. And these $20 billion were expected, it was in 2019, were targeted to reach $50 billion by 2025. However, due to this pandemic, we have not been able to progress as much, but we have not really gone down very significantly either. So we hope that as and when, hopefully this year, when the pandemic subsides, our trade progress will catch on and we will reach our target by 2025. Engineering goods forms the largest segment of our export to Indonesia. As far as Indonesia's export to India is concerned, India is Indonesia's largest purchaser of crude palm oil. India is also, I think, the second largest destination for Indonesian coal. So these two themselves make a large portion of Indonesia's trade to export to India, which has a very positive trade balance. Out of the $20 billion of trade, bilateral trade, Indonesia's export to India was nearly 10 billion. And India's export, 12 billion. And India's export to Indonesia was nearly 5 billion. So Indonesia enjoyed a trade balance, positive trade balance over India of nearly $7 billion. Palm oil, as I told you, coal, I mentioned to you, sugar is a very important commodity of import into Indonesia from India. It has happened recently, and India is able to supply a lot of sugar for consumption in Indonesia. Bovine meat, we have already discussed with you about this, but it's just a figure. Investment, direct investment from Indian companies is about 30 companies. But as most investments to Indonesia come from Singaporean branches of Indian companies, if you take into account all that investment from Indian companies to Indonesia is nearly $54 billion. And the total of investments between 2000 and 2021 directly from India is about $1.14 billion in 4,340 odd projects. Recently, for the first time, a very well-known infrastructure company called GMR has won this tender for developing, managing, and operating the Kuala Namu International Airport in Medan, which is a joint venture with Angkasa Pura 2, AP2, for about $25 billion over 25 years. Now, shared vision of in the Indo-Pacific. Defense cooperation agreement was signed between India and Indonesia in 2001. New agreements were signed in 2018, and you can see there is a comprehensive strategic partnership today between our two countries. The structural engagements include ministerial dialogue, joint defense cooperation committee, and service level staff talks. We have a close interaction between our leaders, not only at the Prime Minister and President level, but at defense ministers level and also at foreign ministers level. Operational engagement, as you can see, corporates at IBML by both navies since 2002, Army Special Force ex-Garuda Shakti since 2012, Navy to Navy. Example, Samudra Shakti since 2018, and Air Force maiden exercise are planned in this year, 2022. You can see that under Atmanirbhar Bharat, defense industry in India has been given a special focus. And I have mentioned about this earlier. There are a lot of new initiatives also in the private sector, whether for shipbuilding, aerospace, or defense production. Private industry for the first time is being allowed to work in defense industry sector. And there is a lot that we can do together between India and Indonesia to safeguard not our land border, airspace, but also our maritime boundary. Indian Armed Forces have been at the forefront of what we call humanitarian assistance and disaster relief in the Indian Ocean region. Indian government has started this mission SAGA, which is an acronym for Security and Growth for All in the region. India and Indonesia co-chairs the experts working group on HADR under ADMM Plus for 2021-23 cycle. Humanitarian assistance, as you all remember about tsunami, there was a very quick response from the Indian government. All the IOR in the Indian Ocean region countries had been impacted, and the operations that were launched by Indian Navy were called Castor for Maldives, Rainbow for Sri Lanka, and Gambhir from Indonesia. The medical camp in Palu, some of the pictures are available here. In COVID-19 times, we had intense interaction under the Sagar program, and we exchanged actually both sides. When India was facing phase 2 of COVID-19 in April, Indonesian government sent some humanitarian assistance. But in June, July, when Indonesia was suffering from the second wave, then oxygen cylinders and tanks were received from India here. You can see the Sagar mission in 2021, and some of the pictures of the handing over these ISO tanks, oxygen tanks, are given here. Now, this is a book which we have come out recently, just about a month ago, which a copy of it has been presented to the dean, to the rector here, just before this meeting. This deals with, as you see, the title is Kasamaan, which means similarities in Bahasa Indonesia. And we are dealing with 19 different sectors which have potential for future growth between India and Indonesia. I think we need to go through some of this, and I'll encourage all of you to go through this book, which is also available. It can be downloaded directly, whether you are working for your mobile, laptop, or your desktop. This is the website from where you can download each version of this book electronically. So I think I have taken a much more time than I intended to, but I hope this was useful. Thank you very much, and I will welcome any, next slide, please. Oops, previous one. Yeah, questions? No. Just the last one. Oops, yeah. If you have any questions, thank you very much for your patience. I know it has become a bit long, but I'll take questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for the insightful presentation. So I'll just go through a quick highlight of the material. So there are I think there are three very important points I picked from your presentation, sir. The first, you highlighted some cultural similarities between Indonesia and India. And you also highlighted some possibilities for collaborations in different sectors, ranging from disaster relief support up to defense industry collaborations. And also you have highlighted some key points regarding potential sectors for investment between Indonesia and India. So we are really grateful for those information. So at this point, we would like to take questions from our participants, both online and offline. We encourage our offline participants to send their questions through the Q&A feature on the Zoom application. Maybe we can start our question and answer session with our participants in the auditorium here. So if there are any questions, you might raise your hands up and walk towards the microphone. I can
see one hand over there. Can someone provide a microphone or?
Okay, you can come forward. The girl on the left side. Yeah.
Maybe one can use this phone to give it to.
Yeah, you can walk towards the microphone and address your question.
Untuk mahasiswa yang lain, jika ingin menanyakan dalam bahasa Indonesia, dipersilakan, nanti kita bantu.
Check. Does it work?
Yes, it does.
I'm so sorry to open my mask. Firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me introduce myself. My name is Karijana Priani, and I'm a corporal cadet in this Defense University. I have two questions for you, and I'm so glad if you want to answer it. Firstly, as an IT student, Indonesia have the national concerns about cybercrime. And what about the situations of cybercrime in India? And what what about the Indian governments do against the cybercrime? First question. Secondly,
shall we go one by one?
What?
Shall we go one by one? Let me answer this question.
Of course.
Okay. Omicron has started gaining a very concerning position in India. I think a few days ago, yesterday or day before, there were more than 100,000 infections that were noted in India. Indian government's response has been two or threefold. One is not to curtail economic activities, but ask people to be on the guard and maintain social distancing and other norms, just as the government of Indonesia is doing now to introduce PPKM2. But emphasis more so is on larger and quicker vaccination. And we had, as you perhaps know, we had reached a figure of nearly 20 million doses of vaccination every day. You can imagine that it's a very tough task for a huge population of India, but we have reached already more than 1.1 billion vaccinations, first round vaccinations in India, which basically means around 75% first dose and nearly 50% of second dose as well. So that has been the target, and that has been the effort to fight Omicron virus also. It is a fact that it is more easily infectable, but it has also been noticed that it is less fatal in terms of people's hospitalization or resulting in death. So hopefully, as the time goes by, with increasing number of vaccination, this menace will be under control in India as well as in Indonesia. Next question, please. Second one.
Check. Okay, thank you for your answer. Secondly, I'm so interested in your about your presentation. It's so wonderful. As I'm a Hinduism, and as what you said before, that 25% in world population, in Hinduism, Jainism population in this world is in India. And it means that most citizens in India is Hindu and Jainism. Comparing to Indonesia, mostly the citizen is Muslims. And then what the governments of Indonesia do about the regulation is based on nationality, not just Muslims. So what about India? Is similar to Indonesia. As you said before, we have a lot of similarity, such as economy, culture, and many more. And what about India? Is the same to Indonesia or not? Thank you.
The first thing you should remember when we talk of India and Indonesia is that we share the same motto. We have this motto of unity in diversity, and you have the motto of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. They are the same thing. Indonesian government respects all religion equally, at least 6 you have state religion. India does not have a state religion. Does not have a state religion, being the world's largest Hindu population. Even if you take that, nearly 75% of Indian population is Hindu, that will make nearly 1 billion people. But India does not have a state religion. We are a secular country, and we give each and every religion the same facilities or restrictions. Same. So from that point of view, if you see, we once again share a similarity of thought at the government level, at the decision-making level, at working level in the public, that we respect each and every religion, even though we are Hindu majority nation and you are Muslim majority nation here. It does not matter that we follow what religion majorly. We believe in Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. Okay? Next question.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Ambassador. Just for information, we have over 300 participants online who are also taking part, and they would like to ask some questions also, sir.
Yeah,
we
sure.
have one question from Penta Sukmawati from the Faculty of National Security. Study program is disaster management. She would asking, Indonesia and India have various similarities, including population growth. Besides that, India has the ability to produce technologies and human capital capabilities that leads in the establishment of various world famous companies. So how is the strategy prepared by India for the younger generation in encouraging the ability of human resources as a national asset in the face of world economy and technological competition, especially in the pandemic era?
Okay, I would only like to say once again that we two nations, India and Indonesia, are following similar growth path. It is just that in certain areas, India is ahead because of various reasons of history, post-colonial progress, method of governance, what happened with our nations in the last 70, 75 years. We are currently, we are both on the same path, democratic nations, developing nations. In some areas we are ahead, in some other areas you are ahead. For example, you mentioned about in terms of education, human capital, human resource, India certainly is little ahead of Indonesia. But if you see in terms of per capita income, industrial development, what has happened since 1998, you have gone ahead of India. Your per capita income is higher than in India. So it is just a matter of how we grow together, what path we have taken in our past and where we are today. So rather than taking it as a competition, we should take it as collaboration and work together so that, end result in a democracy is welfare of the people. A common people should be benefited by the government policies. So in our bilateral relationship, if we can work together and provide benefits to our people, we have done our job. And this is what we need to know when we talk of India and Indonesia. I hope I have answered this question. Next one.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. We have another participant online who is currently raising his hand, so you can ask your question directly. Please. What's his name? Mr. Ari, you can ask your question directly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you first of all, Mr. Ambassador, Your Excellency. I'd like to ask about the Indians' foreign diplomacy, because as you said.
Sorry, Mr. Ari, you can mention your name, your study program also.
Okay, sorry. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ari Harmoko. I'm from master program in defense diplomacy. My question is, what about Indians' diplomacy? Because as you mentioned in your presentation, sir, that India has a proximity geographical with some countries. How India manage its diplomacy regarding its neighbor country? Thank you, sir.
It's a very good question. Thank you. And you have given me an opportunity to say something which I had forgotten in the beginning. One of the major philosophies of India, both ancient and present, is again a Sanskrit phrase which is called Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. We firmly believe that the entire world is one family. In our philosophy, Indian philosophy, we do not distinguish between people of one region and people of other, because human beings all over the world are part of one human family. This is what is called in ancient India, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. This phrase, by the way, has been taken exactly in the same sense in our foreign policy. Our foreign policy is based primarily on this dictum, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. And when you say that we have relationship with so many countries, we do not go by any other consideration, but by the humanitarian consideration and the consideration that we all belong to one human family. And that is the reason when you see in the United Nations, if India speaks on any particular subject, India's voice is given more credence, because people believe that India will not speak from a narrow perspective. When India speaks on either environment or terrorism or any other issue, everyone in the United Nations listens carefully, because India never speaks from a narrow perspective. We speak for the entire globe, because it is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. I hope this satisfies you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mr. Ari, and thank you for your answer, Mr. Ambassador. Okay, we can come back to the auditorium now and take one question.
Yeah, switch it on, switch it on.
Langsung.
Still not
Yeah.
working? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, good. Thank you for the opportunity. Greetings, Your Excellency.
Thank
My
you.
name is Bimo. I'm a doctoral student of RIDU. I would like to ask a question. Given your presentation that Indonesia and India, both countries have similar high concern on disaster management. In your view, disaster management, yeah, in your view, how the potential for both countries to deepen collaboration in technological and human capacity building to address disaster issues in the region? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Once again, it's a wonderful question. It gives me an opportunity to deal with something which I could not cover in my long address to you in the beginning. Whether it is disaster management or any other field of human training, we have provided a huge number of scholarships to Indonesia. Nearly 100 scholarships have been given to working professionals in Indonesia every year under what we call ITEC program, Indian Technical and Educational Collaboration or Cooperation, ITEC. If you go to the Indian Embassy website and you type scholarships or ITEC, you will find not only the form to fill in, but also the areas in which one can take scholarship. Once you fill up the form, send it to us, and if you are selected, you do not have to spend even 1 penny. All expenditure, if you have to go to India, expenditure will be borne by Indian government. If you have to stay in India, all expenditure will be borne by Indian government. If you are taking online training courses, no investment at all from your side. 100 people can go to India for taking these ITEC scholarship programs of training in different areas. The areas deal with starting from simple English proficiency, IT language, how to run an office, leadership course, rural education, electrification in rural areas. Think of a subject and you can probably find it there. There are 65 different streams of training that is possible. And if you want to be trained in something different, tell us. We will organize courses for you. So 100 scholarships are paid to visit India and take these training courses, which are short-term training courses, between 2 weeks to 16 weeks training courses. But if you take online training courses, there are innumerable ones, as many as possible. Even 1,000 people can take these training courses online. You just apply to us and you will be given this training course. ITEC. Apart from this, there are other scholarships provided by the government of India under cultural exchange program, under it's called School or Higher Education Program, SAD, Higher School Program. There are 2,500 scholarships available for engineers and undergraduates and postgraduates to do your higher studies in Indian IIT, the where from I have come from, Indian Institute of Technology. You can choose a course and you will be given scholarship for giving your for taking that course. So all this information is available on the Indian Embassy website, which is there in the presentation. I'll leave a copy of this presentation with you, with your university, and you can make use of this in your various activities. Okay, does it satisfy you? Thank you. Another question?
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Now we're going to go to the online participants. So we're going to take a question from Mr. Hassan Rashma. Please, you can ask your question directly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My name is Hassan. I'm a student of Defense Diplomacy, postgraduate. So thank you very much for an elaborative presentation. And as you have yourself mentioned that Indonesia is the Muslim majority country and India has a very, very prosperous in history during the Muslim rules, as like in the architecture, business, GDP, rule of law, literature, etc. But it was not mentioned anywhere in your presentation. Kindly explain if deemed appropriate. Thank you very much, sir.
First of all, I must highlight here, once again, I didn't get a chance to speak about this. Indonesia has the world's largest Muslim population, but India has the world's second largest Muslim population in the world. So we have a large population of Islam followers in India as well. As far as Mughal period architecture or monuments are concerned, if you have noticed, I have not mentioned about any medieval monument at all. We have only mentioned about ancient monuments, and then we have progressed on economy. But if you see the slides where I have compared, or I have put two monuments together from India as well as Indonesia, most of it you will find is from Islamic period, Mughal period. If you go back to those slides, you will see that we have taken and mentioned about those in our presentation. Does that satisfy you?
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Ambassador. So we have another question from a doctoral student online, Mrs. Penny Angarini. She said, you mentioned about the past links to India's present policy. My question is, does this also apply to India's continuity in defense policy? What are your strategies, or what are Indian strategies in confronting contemporary non-military threats?
I can assure you that what you call non-military threats is high on the minds of both governments, India as well as Indonesia. We are very carefully monitoring what happens all around the globe to see as to how it affects our country. In India, and I'm aware that this is being done extensively in Indonesia as well. The collaboration in this regard goes on both at diplomatic level, government level, at the level of interaction of our leaders when they meet, and they meet quite often. I can tell you that right in the beginning of this year, there was a very cordial and very friendly telephonic discussion between our two foreign ministers. So this is just to indicate that we have been closely in touch with each other at the leadership level. And when we discuss many issues, including what you have mentioned about non-defense threats to our country. I'd like to stop here on this. Is that okay?
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. She has a second question, actually,
okay,
which I would continue. Our second question is related to relations between India with the major powers, such as the US, China, etc. So to what extent does this major powers shape the Indians' national security? Mm-hmm. So the influence of the superpower on the national security of India.
You see, I have said earlier that though India has the world's second largest army today, and it has always been very strong in terms of maintaining a military force, in its 10,000 years history, India has never, ever militarily attacked any other country. Our policy, our defense policy is based on self-reliance and self-protection. We will not attack any other force but we will take due action if we are attacked. We are fully prepared to face any challenge and any enemy anywhere, either on land, sea, or in air. We are preparing ourselves as per this policy. We are a strong nation, not only in our own region, but also recognized so globally. However, the entire world also knows India's dictums, which is of self-reliance, not attacking anyone, and treating the entire world as one family. So we would maintain always a strong army, strong defense force. At the same time, we have been and we will be non-aligned. We are not going to be part of any military alliance from any quarter. You can see that whatever alliance we have made, whether we talk of Quad, recent ones, or non-alignment, or Southeast Asian, SAARC, they are all non-military alliances. They are based on the notion that we need to collaborate to go ahead with peace and prosperity for our people. That is the guiding principle.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your answers. We're going to take another permission to take some few questions, sir. Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sir. So another question still online with Mr. Sharif Aremo. It's regarding the Quad 2.0 and the AUKUS. So Mr. Sharif Aremo, you can ask your question directly. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
I'm Sharif Aremo from Nigeria. I'm a master's student with the Faculty of Defense Study Program Defense Diplomacy. Collaboration is one of the tools and approaches India used to project our national interest and foreign policy. One of such, as mentioned in your explanation, is Quad 2.0. This was recently extended to Israel and the United Arab Emirates. My question is, would there be any point of fusion between Quad 2.0 and the recent AUKUS collaboration with the US, UK, and Australia? And what would be the implication of these collaborations, both the Quad 2.0 and the future fusion of AUKUS to Indonesian interest? Thank you, sir.
I think you are asking me this question and you want me to be an astrologer. I cannot, first of all, project or hypothesize as to what will happen. Even the notion of Quad 2 is in the limbo right now. I do not know where you have got this assurance that Quad 2 is going to be imminent, but I can assure you that when it comes in existence, we would certainly have some explanation given by the leadership. I am too small a fry to try and hazard a guess as to what they want to do. So let us not deal into this subject and move on to some other question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please. There's one question there.
Okay, so we will take our last question from our participants offline. Cadets.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ask.
Good afternoon.
I'm Corporal Cadet Abdul. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So my question is, India and Indonesia have the same characteristics, which I'm concerned about is rich of wonderful environment and biodiversity. Now the world have an issue of climate change and the rising of overall temperature, which threaten human being. So what is India's government's policy to maintain the safety and stability of our environment and biodiversity? Thank you.
Okay, good question. Once again, very good question. And it gives me an opportunity again to deal with something which I could not do in my presentation. I mentioned to you about India's ancient dictum of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The ancient dictum of India is also very deeply linked with nature. We treated nature as our provider, as our teacher, as our guru, as somebody to collaborate with. This is given in Indian scriptures on many occasions as to how we should treat nature as an essential part of our life. If you see Indian rituals, and I'm sure those who are from Bali or Java, they will collaborate with this, Indian rituals, and I do not name them religious rituals, cultural rituals, involve trees, plants, leaves. Everything is part of that ancient culture. We treat the animals with respect. Almost, I mean, you know, there are so many gods and goddesses in this Indian philosophy. And each god or goddess is linked with one animal as their vahana, as their vehicle. Animal world, flora and fauna is an integral part of Indian ancient philosophy and cultural ethos. Today, we follow same ancient aspiration of ours. All our government policies are aimed at minimizing the misuse of nature. We cannot avoid using nature, but we do not want to misuse the nature. And that is the philosophy of Indian government even today. And we think that the developed world is pushing a bad agenda on the developing world through the COP26 and all other considerations. You from Indonesia, as part of the developing nations, should be part of our thinking that the West is actually misusing their economic strength. It is they who are responsible for the nature's degradation today. Their per capita carbon emission is 30 times higher than that of India, even today. But they want to impose new conditions on the development of India in the name of environmental concern. They are not ready to take any responsibility on this, which is very strange. Indonesia and India together should make the West understand that you need to transform. We are doing what we can do, but we do not want to sacrifice our economic growth for the sake of your benefit. If we want to stop using coal, we will do it at our own pace. We need to develop our industry. We need to develop our energy sector. We will not listen to you. We will make our own program. Is that clear? This is what we should do together. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We are really grateful for your patience in answering the questions. They were very straightforward and firm. And we would like to also apologize to our participants that won't be able to take questions because of time constraints. So at this moment, we would like to thank once again Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Manoj, Kumar, Bharti, and as a sign of gratitude, we would like to present a certificate by the Vice Rector 3, Dr. Engineer Suirwan, to Mr. Ambassador. Sir.
Kegiatan, bro. Iya.
Also, the book presentation titled Kesamaan from Mr. Ambassador to Unhan. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. What to say? You might have your seat, sir. So we are now at the peak of this event. Once again, we would like to thank His Excellency, Mr. Manoj Kumar Bharti, for gracing us with his presence. We are honored, sir. And we also like to thank all participants for making time and being active during the guest lecture. So as we are still dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, we would also like to encourage everyone to stay healthy and stay safe. So thank you once again for being a part of this guest lecture. Good afternoon, selamat siang, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua, shalom, om swastiastu, namo buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan.
Kira jalan-jalan itu. Kemana berobat? Nggak bilang sama suami emang.
Mohon perhatian, dari Kedutaan Besar India menyiapkan refreshment untuk dinikmati bersama. Ada yang di lantai 2 dan ada yang di bawah. Mahasiswa sebagian nanti bisa bergabung untuk mengisi yang di dalam, yang lain ke bawah. Para pejabat kolonel ke atas silakan masuk ke ruang utama. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan dan penghargaan yang tinggi kepada Kedutaan Besar India.
Right there. Okay. I think I would also get it from my friend.